Hey, y'all, it's your favorite Unc. Make sure you hit that subscribe button down below to Nightcap YouTube channel so you never miss a single live stream or video of myself, Ocho, and Gil. Remember, Nightcap doesn't happen without you. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thank you. 49ers believe practice field is giving them an unfair advantage. The 49ers are trying to figure out where they'll practice this week after finding the surface at UNLV far softer than they expected. The university has a pair of artificial surface fields that last week were overlaid with natural grass. But because there's no surface placed between the artificial turf and the new sod, the fields had a sponge-like feel. The Athletic wrote the 49ers were so unhappy that they initially considered flying back from Vegas following Monday night's media event and practicing in Santa Clara before the game, but have since backed off that plan. Tonight, Roger Goodell, Commissioner Goodell, maintained that the NFL has deemed the field playable despite the 49ers' concern. Yeah. First of all, guess what? NFL officials, you're not playing.
Yes, sir.
Y'all don't put no cleats on. So just because you say, oh, it's playable, what about the players? What about the coaches that's going to be on there and are expecting a certain type of surface in order to be able to practice on? Now, we don't want to use that as an excuse, but I think in a situation like this, Ocho, you want to make sure both teams are at their best. And the last thing you want is the one team to feel like we have an unfair advantage because the surface that we're practicing on is not adequate or is not appropriate or as it can close as to the surface that we're going to be playing on come Sunday.
Right.
So hopefully everybody gets this thing worked out and the 49ers says, you know what? Hey, it is what it is. Let's go make the best of it. But I just don't like the fact that the commissioner just came out and said they have deemed it. Well, so let me ask you a question. Who put on cleats and went out there and tested it?
Right. I mean, listen, it's obviously it's unfortunate. I think about how you and I grew up, Unc. I think about the playing surfaces that we had to deal with. I think about the playing surfaces that I had to deal with playing throw-up tackle at Charles Hadley Park, playing throw-up tackle at Moore Park down in Liberty City. And to think about how happy I was to play on those surfaces with holes and divots and all type of sprinkler heads coming up. And obviously, I know you expect once you make it to the highest level, you want everything to be perfect. At sometimes, any little inconvenience, it's an issue, or the playing surface is too small, or just like I get it. Obviously, it's a Super Bowl, so I don't think it's an unfair advantage. Now, mind you, now we've been playing football for 19 weeks. Playing the game of football for 19 weeks now. We're grown men, and at the smallest inconvenience, we can't let the smallest thing be inconvenience. We know what to do. We know we're going to be playing on Bermuda grass that is very fast when it comes to game time. And a little inconvenience for the surface not being what you're used to it being shouldn't be that much of an inconvenience when you want to think about flying back home, as opposed to going out there and practicing.
Let me ask you a question.
Now. That's just me. Now, everybody else might be different. That's just me and my thought process when it comes to it, based on where I came from and what I grew up having to do. Something like the field being a little different than what I'm used to wouldn't inconvenience me when I know the work I got to get in as far as coming preparing for a game.
Let's just say, for the sake of argument,
to me, it's nitpicking.
And all of a sudden, I understand that you grew up playing on those fields, and all of a sudden, the Bengals had to go play on that field. You okay with that? You dodging sprinkler heads, divots, bottles?
I see where you're going, but that's very dramatic.
What did you just say? How you grew up playing on the sprinkler heads and dodging those?
I'm gonna say concrete, all that stuff, but I'm saying even though it's at the highest level, it isn't that much of inconvenience because the field is a little soft. Like, come on now.
Let me ask you a
Everything
question.
can't be
Why
perfect.
did you celebrate? Because in your mind, it gave you advantage. You needed to be Ocho. You wore your uniform a certain way. And when the NFL told you to change your uniform, what did you say, Ocho? Why did you say no, Ocho? It ain't nothing but a little minor inconvenience.
Because
all it did was ask you to tuck your jersey.
Yeah.
All they did was ask you to put the towel on one side, not the other. What they asked you to pull your socks up. So why was that such a problem for you?
Because when you look good, you play good, and I wanted to dress the same way I dressed when I was a little shorty, and I wasn't changing that no matter how much money you took from me. That's not what
so in other words, the 49ers wanting to be practicing on a field that's going to be similar to what they played on is asking a bit too much.
Right. Hey, I mean, I'm just giving you a small example on how I feel about it. I don't care if they had my black ass out there on motherfucking ice. I'm finna go
But
practice
I'm
and be
just
ready
trying
for
to say,
goddamn
but you
Sunday.
wasn't willing to do that with your uniform, but you expect them to be able to do that at the Super Bowl. This wasn't the Super Bowl. They said, Ocho, we need you to correct your uniform.
Right,
They
right, right,
asked you to do this for
right,
a regular
right,
game or a preseason game. And your mind wouldn't allow you to
right,
do that because you didn't feel if you changed anything about your uniform, you couldn't be Ocho.
right. That's exactly how I felt, and I understand where you're going with it. But I think that's apples and oranges. It's
Have
kind
you
of
ever seen a fruit
different.
basket?
It's kind of
Have you ever
it's,
seen a fruit basket?
huh?
They put apples and oranges in there, and
Yeah,
pears too sometimes, and some
yeah,
grapes.
yeah, and some plums. And some fun. But
Yeah.
I understand. I understand what, their issue. Obviously, this is the biggest game, and you want you want everything to be as
Yes.
perfect as possible in your preparation for a game of this magnitude. I'm just saying, for me, I ain't really giving a fuck about no goddamn surface, boy. Man, I'm like, man, let's get
Yeah.
this practice
I
on, man. Let's get practice on.
Now I
Let's go
have
to
played
work.
on the field, Ocho.
Let's
We
go.
have
Let's not make any excuses. Because if they
no,
lose,
they ain't gonna
now
no no
what's
no
the
no no
first
no
thing
no
people?
no no. Because once you start playing on it, you get acclimated to it. It's less than ideal.
Right,
Normally,
right,
what we did, Ocho, if
right.
we had a great, uh, like we gonna play on turf, we might practice Friday on
Yeah,
the turf, but we were saving our legs
right,
on Wednesdays and Thursdays, and then Friday we would practice
right.
on turf to get our bodies used to it because you don't run routes the same way
Right.
on turf as you do grass. So that
Mhm.
was the way. That was the way
Yeah.
Dan did it. That's the way Mike did it. When he got there, is that we would get some get some turf because that turf different, man. Now they
Mhm.
don't have the turf like we used to have back in the day. Nah,
That
nah, nah,
y'all
nah, nah,
had
nah,
back then. Nah, it's
nah.
different.
We had
It's
that
different. It's
concrete.
different. It's different.
We had carpet over concrete. That was a different type of turf. And when
Right.
you left there, you had
Mhm.
strawberries, you had rug burns, your knees hurt, everything
Lots
hurt
of them.
because that was a pounding. Like you said, you
Mhm.
played on concrete. That's exactly what you played on
Yeah.
when you played at the Vet or you played at the Astrodome or you played at some of these stadiums that had turf. That was terrible. Now, in the
Right.
preseason one year, I think it was 2001, that the field was so bad. I don't know if it was called the Link then in Philadelphia or it was still the Vet Stadium, but the stadium was the NFL deemed it unplayable. That's how bad it was. Yeah,
For
it was
real?
awful. It was awful. Somebody was gonna get hurt. Somebody gonna get hurt. Yeah,
Damn.
because that's the
How long before they changed it
well,
though?
we didn't play that game. I think they worked some things out because it was, you would go one
Right.
place and then there was a divot about that deep. But the carpet was there. So
Ah,
somebody was gonna get hurt. Somebody's gonna get hurt. Now
right,
I know
right,
you don't
right,
probably remember this, but
right.
Wendell Davis, he jumped up and caught a pass and he tore both of his I think he's from Chicago. He ended up tearing both of his
Uh-huh.
ACLs. No, he ripped both of his patellas,
Whoa.
not his ACL. He jumped up
At the same time?
and tore both of his patella tendons at the vet.
Well, that's
And
crazy. I ain't
and
never heard of
obviously,
that, bro.
needless to say,
I ain't never
his
heard of
career was over. So
that.
I agree. I understand.
Crazy.
In situations like that, sometimes you can mentally create a ghost that's really not there. I understand what you're used to, and if I was reading correctly, Ocho, the grass was grown in. They had robotics, and they've been this grass here has been monitored and it's supposed to be special,
Right,
and
right,
it's
right.
being flown in,
Mhm.
especially for the Super
Right.
Bowl. Now
Hmm.
it's going to be interesting. I don't think they're going to have. I don't know. I don't think Allegiant has a retractable roof. It's not like SoFi or Arizona. You remember Arizona has a retractable also. So it was a little slick because you
Right.
remember guys were slipping early
Mhm.
last year in the game. And huh?
Yeah.
It's dome. So it's not retractable, right? Okay. It's not retractable. But look,
It's
you made it this far, and I don't believe the field is going to determine who's going to win this ball game.
no, no. But again, when something like this happens, somebody makes not an excuse. Somebody
Right.
has a gripe about something, a
Yeah.
team itself. I guarantee you, if things don't work out come game time, somebody is gonna say, "Well, you know what? We were at a disadvantage because when it was time to practice, we didn't have the field, the adequate playing surface, similar to that would
Right.
be on Sunday. to work with during the week. I guarantee you, always they will find
Yeah,
something.
I mean,
Always. That's why I don't even like the fact that somebody
I
even
think
said anything.
we were very fortunate, Ocho, because when we played, we got the Chargers facility, which was in La Jolla, which was
Right.
amazing. We got the Dolphins facility, which
Beautiful,
was
huh?
in Davie, which was amazing. But
Ama
but
amazing.
when we
Yeah.
went to the Super Bowl in Tampa, the Giants got the Bucks facility, and we got South Florida
Right.
facility. So you can understand that the difference in between an NFL
Right.
facility and a college facility.
And
Yes.
especially back then. Now
Well, if
you
you
think
talk
about a
about
college
Alabama
facility in
or Michigan
'24.
or Ohio State, US, something like that, okay,
Right.
fine. But when you talk about
It's
yeah, you talk about
equivalent.
South Florida, Ocho, they ain't got no $100 million
Yeah.
athletic budget.
Right.
So,
Right.
but
Right.
look, it didn't matter. We could have played. We could have played them joker in a lake. They wasn't. The Giants wasn't gonna
Yeah.
beat that. Wasn't
You,
gonna score on that defense.
you see that? You see the
Yeah,
attitude you have though? You see that
yeah,
mindset you have? Like that's the mindset that I would love for all
right,
players to have. I would love for whoever the captains are for the 49ers to say, whatever officials or personnel with the 49ers that complain about a field, I would love Fred Warner to stand up, fuck that, man.
right.
We got work to do. Man, let's get out
Mm-hmm.
here and get this work done. You care about no goddamn field. You know what we been through to even get to this point? Forget just the NFL, just in general, the playing conditions, the obstacles that we had to overcome to get here. You think we crying about some goddamn field? Man, blow the whistle,
Yeah,
man. Let's work. That's just again my mentality
yeah.
and my
I
mindset.
just hated when it was raining.
God,
I was
goddamn
sure
field.
hoping that coach you sometime would call practice off when it started raining, but that never happened.
Never,
Or when it was
ever.
snowing, or when it was
Hey,
cold, I'd be like, "Damn, it's cold out here." But I will say this: when it got really, really cold in Baltimore, Ocho, Brian Billick had heated seats out there for us. So while so
yeah,
while the defense on them, if it's number one defense and it's going against the scout team offense, the start no on the hot seats, just like you was at a game. Mike Shanahan was playing that bull. Jerry Reed was playing that bull jive. Man, you had to. I'm talking about this cold now. You know it get cold and never now. It get real cold and snow.
yeah. Oh yeah.
And guess what? Offensive linemen, all of them always went out in shorts, no matter how cold it was.
Hey, did your
Yeah.
lineman do that too? What about with no sleeves on game day? They had a
No, you
rule:
couldn't
no
wear
lineman
sleeves.
wore sleeves.
No sleeves.
Yeah, I never understood that. Now I didn't wear sleeves when it was cold because I need to be able
Nah,
to
I ain't
feel the
want them jokers
ball up
holding.
against me.
I ain't want them jokers
Huh?
holding. Because you know they going to hold that something for them to grab
Okay.
onto.
Oh yeah, you ain't got no choice,
Yeah.
especially when it's cold. And if you're playing on
Yep.
a slick surface, you always want that advantage
Right.
of being able to grab to be able to
Yep.
maintain your
And
leverage.
so like even when I put on Vaseline, I never put it all the way. I just put
Yeah.
it on the outside of my arms because I was gonna have the ball inside. The
Right.
last thing I need is to have that thing
Right. Right.
slip
Right.
out. So the Vaseline only went on.
Yep. Yep.
I never put it on. You always had somebody, the
Mhm.
equipment guy, put it on for you, but he never put it.
Right. Mhm.
Never went above. On the sides or up underneath. And I didn't. I
Right.
didn't really. I just wore cut off, and I didn't. I couldn't wear a bunch of clothes. I
No, I
did
feel
too. I
restricted,
did
Unc.
too.
I feel restricted. I hate that. I hate the feeling of feeling restricted. It's a crazy thing. People laughing at me. I tweeted. I'm off topic just a tad bit. To give you a little tidbit on how weird I was when it came to playing. I
Yeah.
was with Reebok during my day, right? I had Reebok take all the
Mm-hmm.
insulation out of my shoe. All the insulation out of my shoe. I didn't want any cushion. I didn't want any ankle support. I didn't want anything. All I wanted was the the the
Mm-hmm.
the cleat. I want the bottom cleat, and then put the shell around it
Right.
and some shoelaces. So I wanted my cleats to feel like I had a track spike on. I need to
Mm-hmm.
feel the ground. I need to feel the ground. Anytime I wore tape, the tape was just more so for fashion. I hate my feet feeling restricted. I need to touch the floor and feel it as if I was wearing track spikes. When it came to wearing an undershirt, I ain't
Yeah.
wear nothing. I just put my shoulder pads on and then
Yeah.
I put my jersey on.
I always had to cut off. And then
Uh-huh.
obviously we gutted our pants. We were one of the first team to wear no pads. I mean, most of us had no pads that
Yeah, you took your
they were
pads
like
out. Yeah.
spandex. But I needed to be free.
Right, right.
And so
Right.
But Ed McCaffrey did exactly what you did. He would cut all the inside out of his shoes. And then Eddie's
I
shoulder
hate that.
pads were smaller than the kickers. His pads were like this.
Yeah,
His shoulder was out. Yeah.
hey, his arms, yeah, his arms, man, he was yoked up, man. That's the one thing I remember about Ed McCaffrey having them big ass arms with
Yeah.
them little ass shoulder pads. Like, is it
Yeah.
Martellus Bennett
Yeah.
that used to do
Yep.
that?
Yep.
Remember Martellus
Yep.
Bennett's shoulder pads? Looked like he
Yeah.
had on some little
Yep.
high school shoulder
That's how
pads.
Ed was. Because I needed to be the first person that I ever saw wear no pads in their pants was Ricky Jackson. So I want to give Ricky Jack credit because we stole it from him. He was the first person that I ever saw that had no pads, no thigh pads, no hip pads, no knee pads.
Right.
And it looked so cool. And then I'm like, man. So I was like, hey, because you can get Ed McCaffrey to do anything. I said, Ed, I think we'd be light if we did it. He's like, you think so? You think so, Sharpie? I was like, yeah. So Ed and I gutted it. And then everybody else started gutting their pants. And hell, Frank Gore took it to another level. He was running back with no thigh and knee pads. I was like, oh, hell no. Nah.
Nothing. Hold on. And then had his pants all the way up above his knee at that.
With no ankles, with no tape on his ankles, just out there balling.
Nothing.
I said, oh man. Yeah.